I saw my hottest hookup kissing my mother. Maybe it was how his knees slid between my legs, rubbing me to different heights, or how smoothly he dunked vodka from his mouth into mine. Cocky, teasing, perfect. This hot stranger moved like he owned the room, like he owned me. And for once, I didn't care about keeping control. "You're wound up," he said, his lips brushing my ear as his fingers found my waist. His thumbs dipped just beneath the hem of my shirt, warm and confident, sending a shock of heat straight through me. "Am not," I muttered, but the slight catch in my voice gave me away. His laugh was soft but full of intent, like he knew he had me exactly where he wanted. "Sure," he said, leaning in until our noses almost touched. His green eyes locked on mine. "Let me help with that." Before I could think, or overthink, his mouth crashed into mine. It wasn't a kiss. It was an invasion. His tongue swept in, slow and commanding, the cool press of his piercing making me gasp. He took that as an invitation, tilting my head back with one hand while the other gripped my hip, pulling me flush against him. Every nerve in my body lit up. His scent, clean, sharp, a hint of smoke, wrapped around me, and I couldn't get enough. His fingers slid up my back, dragging my shirt with them, nails scraping just enough to make me shiver. "You're still holding back," he murmured against my lips, his voice low and rough, his teeth grazing my jaw. "Relax." As if I had a choice. His knee pressed harder, his thigh moving in just the right way to leave me breathless. My hands found his hair, soft, thick, perfect for tugging, and his groan against my neck sent a fresh wave of heat coursing through me. I didn't even know his name, and neither did I care. Not when he leaned back with that wicked smile and whispered, "Bedroom?" I grabbed his hand without hesitation. The next morning, I woke up to sunlight stabbing through the curtains, like it had a personal vendetta against me. My head pounded like a jackhammer, and my mouth felt like I'd been chewing on sandpaper all night. I groaned, sitting up slowly and immediately regretting it when the room spun like a bad carnival ride. The bed was huge, rumpled, and empty, except for me. No sign of the stranger from last night. No note, no number, nothing but the faintest whiff of his cologne still lingering on the pillow. Probably for the best, I thought. What was I going to do anyway? Ask for a second round while my life crumbled around me? I dragged myself to the edge of the bed and held my head in my hands, trying to piece together how I'd ended up here. Oh, right. A series of catastrophes, culminating in me getting fired yesterday. Fantastic. First, my parents' divorce, messy, bitter, and way too public for my taste. Then, my boyfriend, well, ex-boyfriend now, decided I wasn't ambitious enough for him. And as if that wasn't enough, my boss thought firing me a week before rent was due was a fun idea. Now, here I was, 23 years old, broke, hungover, and humiliated. Moving back in with my mom felt like the cherry on top of this shit Sunday. Sure, she'd offered, and I knew she wouldn't say a word about it, but that didn't make it any less embarrassing. I pushed myself up and stumbled toward the bathroom, catching a glimpse of myself in the mirror, hair sticking up in every direction, dark circles under my eyes, and a bruise blooming on my collarbone. Great. I splashed cold water on my face and tried not to think too hard about the fact that this was my life now. "Get it together, Theo," I muttered to myself. But honestly, I didn't even know where to start. A few hours later, the cab ride to Mom's house was long enough for my hangover to simmer, but not quite fade. By the time I reached her front door, my stomach was still doing flips, but at least I wasn't actively dying anymore. The house looked the same as always, neat, cozy, and too big for just one person. I sighed, steeling myself, and rang the bell. Mom answered almost immediately, pulling me into a hug before I could say a word. Her familiar perfume, something light and floral, wrapped around me like a blanket, and for a second, I felt a tiny bit of relief. "It's good to see you, honey," she said, pulling back to look at me. Her eyes softened and I realized I probably looked like hell. "You too," I mumbled, managing a smile. But before I could say anything else, I caught movement behind her. A guy was coming down the stairs. Tall, lean, and very familiar. My brain stuttered, and my eyes went wide. No way. It was him. His green eyes locked on mine, and I could tell he recognized me too. But unlike me, he didn't freeze up. He just gave a polite smile, cool and controlled, like we hadn't spent last night tearing each other's clothes off. Mom turned, oblivious to the tension thick enough to choke on. "Theo, this is Adam, my boyfriend." I blinked. Sure, I'd misheard her. "You're what?" She smiled, tilting her head like she thought I was being cute. "I know it's a bit to take in," she said breezily. "You must be tired. Go freshen up and we'll catch up later." I opened my mouth to argue, to say something, but nothing came out. My brain was too busy short-circuiting. Somehow I nodded and dragged myself upstairs to my old room. The second I closed the door, I collapsed onto the bed, staring at the ceiling as my heart hammered in my chest. What the hell just happened? 2 days later. It had been 2 days, and the awkwardness in the house was suffocating. Adam, or my hookup, or whatever the hell I was supposed to call him, acted like I didn't exist beyond polite nods and generic small talk. No eye contact, no slip-ups, not even a hint that we'd shared anything more than the same oxygen. Meanwhile, I was losing my mind. Sure, we didn't really know each other, and yeah, we were both drunk that night, but it had been incredible. One of the best nights I'd ever had. And now, he was dating my mother? Living in her house? How was that even real? I poked at my salad during lunch, my appetite non-existent, while Mom chatted away like everything was sunshine and rainbows. Adam sat across from me, cool as a cucumber, eating like he hadn't turned my life upside down. "So," I said finally, breaking the casual hum of Mom's voice, "how did you two meet?" Mom's face lit up and I immediately regretted asking. "Oh, it's such a sweet story," she began, clasping her hands together. "We met about a month ago at a charity event. You know, the one I told you about, Theo? The fundraiser for that children's hospital?" I nodded, though I barely remembered her mentioning it. "Well, I was at the auction, feeling completely out of place as usual, and Adam was there volunteering. He came up to me during the cocktail hour and just started talking. So confident, so charming. He made me laugh, Theo, really laugh, in a way I hadn't in years." I glanced at Adam, who gave her a small smile, perfectly modest. "Things just clicked from there," she continued, practically glowing. "We started going out, and honestly, it felt so natural. I mean, it's been a while since I've dated anyone, and I wasn't even sure I could anymore. But Adam, he made it so easy. And when he mentioned needing a temporary place to stay, I thought, why not? It's just nice having someone around the house again." I stared at her, trying to keep my expression neutral while my brain screamed. A month? They'd known each other for barely a month, and now he was living here? And did she really not see how young he was? He was my age, for crying out loud. "That's great," I managed, though my voice came out a little strained. She beamed. "It really is. Adam's been such a blessing, Theo. He's smart, kind, and so thoughtful. He even helps with the little things, like fixing stuff around the house. You should see him with the neighbors. They adore him." I forced a smile, biting back every snarky comment bubbling to the surface. I didn't want to ruin this for her, Not when she'd been so supportive about letting me stay here. But seriously, how could she not see how weird this was? Adam didn't look at me once during the entire conversation. A week later, I found Adam in the kitchen, leaning against the counter and scrolling through his phone. It wasn't intentional. Running into him never was. But we seemed to have a knack for bumping into each other in this ridiculously large house. "Hey," I said, my voice sharper than I intended. He looked up, startled, then quickly composed himself. "Theo?" He nodded, like that was enough to cover all the unresolved tension between us. I crossed my arms, standing in the doorway. "We need to talk." Adam set his phone down and sighed, running a hand through his perfect blonde hair. "There's nothing to talk about." "Really?" I shot back, stepping closer. "Because the way I see it, there's a whole lot we haven't covered. Like, I don't know, the fact that we—" "Stop," he interrupted, his voice low but firm. "That night, I was drunk, okay? We both were. It didn't mean anything." The words stung more than they should have. I clenched my fists, trying to keep my cool. "Didn't mean anything?" I repeated, my voice rising. "That's convenient, considering you're now living with my mother." He winced, but his expression stayed guarded. "Look, Theo, I didn't plan any of this. What happened between us was a mistake." I laughed bitterly. "A mistake? Right. Keep telling yourself that. Does my mother know you were there that night?" I know that was a low blow, but I was so angry that I wanted to hurt him, and it seemed that I was successful too. Adam's jaw tightened, and for a second, I thought he'd fire back. But instead, he just grabbed his phone and brushed past me, his shoulder grazing mine. The heat of his touch lingered long after he left the kitchen. Later that night. The tension between us boiled over later that night. I caught Adam in the hallway, leaning against the wall like he'd been waiting for me. "You keep avoiding me," I said, not bothering to hide my frustration. He smirked, but there was no humor in it. "Maybe because talking to you is like walking through a minefield." "Do you even remember that night?" I demanded, stepping closer, the words tumbling out before I could stop them. Adam's smirk faltered, his green eyes locking onto mine. "How could I ever forget?" he said softly, his voice dropping to that dangerously intimate tone I remembered too well. My breath hitched, and for a moment it felt like the air between us was charged, crackling with everything we weren't saying. "Then why are you pretending it didn't happen?" His hand twitched at his side like he wanted to reach for me, but didn't dare. "Because it can't happen again. Not now. Not like this." I swallowed hard, my throat tight. "That's not an answer." He stepped closer, his voice low and almost a whisper. "It's the only answer I can give you." We stood there, barely a breath apart, the weight of everything unsaid pressing down on us. And then, just like that, he turned and walked away, leaving me standing there, heart racing, wondering what the hell I was supposed to do next. A week later, I was in the living room, scrolling mindlessly on my phone, when I heard the phone ring from the kitchen. Mom answered it, her cheerful "hello" quickly turning tense. She said hello a couple more times, each one sharper than the last. Then she sighed heavily and slammed the phone back onto the receiver. "Another one," she muttered under her breath, her hands trembling as she rubbed her temples. I sat up straighter. "Another what?" "Blank call," she said, her voice tight. "This has been happening for weeks now. No one speaks, just silence. I know it's him, Theo. It has to be." I didn't need to ask who him was. My dad. Mom was convinced he'd been playing mind games ever since the divorce, and honestly, I wouldn't put it past him. I didn't know all the details about why they split. Mom didn't share much, and I wasn't brave enough to dig. But I knew enough to understand that Dad was vindictive when he didn't get his way. Before I could respond, Adam appeared in the doorway. His expression shifted instantly when he saw our distress. He crossed the room in 2 long strides and wrapped her in his arms. "Hey, hey," he murmured, his voice low and soothing. "It's okay. Don't let him get to you." Mom melted into the hug, her face buried in his chest as he rubbed slow circles on her back. His calmness seemed to work because she took a deep breath and nodded, her shoulders relaxing a little. I stood there watching the whole thing, feeling weird. It wasn't just the awkwardness of the moment, or even the situation with my dad. It was something else. A sharp twist in my chest that felt suspiciously like jealousy. Jealousy? God, no. No way. But as I stared at Adam holding my mom, all I could think about was how I wanted to be the one in his arms. What the hell was wrong with me? 2 weeks later. It had been a month since I moved back to my mom's house. Adam and I rarely talked, but there were these small moments, like when our hands brushed in the kitchen, that left my heart racing. I told myself it was just awkwardness, but I knew better. One night after dinner, we were cleaning up while Mom was upstairs. The kitchen was quiet except for the clink of dishes. Standing side by side, his shoulder brushed mine. I could have moved, but I didn't. The heat of his presence was hard to ignore. Adam glanced at me, his movements slow, almost deliberate as he dried a glass. "You okay?" he asked, his voice casual. "Yeah," I said, though my voice cracked slightly. "Just thinking." "About what?" he asked, turning to face me, his green eyes steady on mine. I hesitated. I couldn't admit I was thinking about how his smile still affected me, or how his presence filled the room. "Stuff," I mumbled. His lips curved into a soft smile. "If you ever need to talk, I'm here." There was something in his tone that made my chest tighten. I felt drawn to him, but fought the urge, caught between leaning closer and stepping away. A month later. Another month had passed since I moved back in with Mom, and things with Adam were getting more complicated. Every time we crossed paths, there was this tension I couldn't ignore. I tried convincing myself it didn't mean anything, but deep down, I knew I was falling for him. My mom's boyfriend. It was wrong, and I hated myself for it. One Saturday night, Mom was out, leaving Adam and me alone. I ended up on the couch, stealing glances at him while he scrolled through his phone. The soft light from the lamp highlighted his features, and I couldn't stop staring. I didn't want to feel this way, but I couldn't help it. Adam caught me looking, and I quickly turned away. The silence between us grew heavy, and my heart raced. "What's on your mind?" he asked, his voice teasing but gentle. "Nothing, just tired," I mumbled, avoiding his gaze. He didn't believe me. Sitting up, he leaned closer, his eyes soft but serious. "You're not fooling me, Theo," he said, brushing his hand against mine. The touch was brief but sent a shock through me. I pulled away, my heart pounding. "This is stupid," I muttered. "We can't." Adam sighed, his gaze steady. "I know this is messy, but you've got to stop pretending you're okay. I can see you're not." His words hit harder than I expected. I felt exposed, like he could see right through me. I'm not where I want to be in life," I admitted. "No job, no direction. My life's a mess." His expression softened. "You're not alone in that," he said. "I've been there too. But you don't have to figure it all out right now. Start small, one step at a time." His words gave me a strange sense of relief, like maybe I wasn't completely hopeless. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe. But then the silence returned, thick with unspoken feelings. The pull between us was still there, impossible to ignore. I wanted to lean in, to close the distance, but I knew we couldn't. "Thanks," I said quietly. "I needed that." Adam smiled softly, nodding like he understood everything I couldn't put into words. We sat there for a while, the tension still lingering, both of us battling feelings we weren't supposed to have. It was messy, complicated, and completely wrong. But for the first time, I felt like maybe I wasn't as lost as I thought. Over a week later, I sat on my bed, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing. I was sure of it now. I was falling for Adam, and it was only getting worse. Every time I saw him, every time our eyes met, it felt like everything was closing in. This was dangerous, and I couldn't ignore it. But what could I do? Adam was my mom's boyfriend, and I shouldn't be feeling this way. I had to stop. I didn't know how, though. Tomorrow, I had a job interview. If it went well, I could get my life together. I could leave, put space between me and the tension at home, and most importantly, put distance between Adam and me. But even thinking about it made me hesitate. Part of me didn't want to leave, didn't want to let go of this mess. But I knew I had to focus on the interview and hope my feelings for Adam would fade if I got away. The next day, the interview was a disaster. Absolute trash, from start to finish. By the time I got out of the building, I was ready to crawl into a hole and never come out. Staying positive felt impossible when everything around me was just crumbling. When I got home, all I wanted was some peace. Maybe a bit of time to breathe. But as soon as I walked in, I saw Adam sitting next to Mom on the couch, laughing like he didn't have a care in the world. I stopped in the doorway, my stomach twisting. Seeing him there, so at ease, only made me feel worse. Like I didn't belong in my own house. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. I just turned around and headed straight for my room. I sat on my bed, staring at the wall, the weight of everything pressing down on me. Work, the interview, the drama. It was like I couldn't catch a break. A knock at the door pulled me out of my spiral. I groaned. "Not now, Mom." "It's not your mom." Adam's voice came through softly. I hesitated. "What do you want?" He cracked the door open, peeking inside. "You okay?" "No," I said bluntly, not looking at him. Adam stepped in anyway, shutting the door behind him. He didn't say anything at first, just sat down on the edge of my bed. The silence wasn't awkward. It was just there, like he was waiting for me to talk. Eventually, I did. I bombed it. The interview. They asked all these questions I wasn't ready for, and I just froze. It was a train wreck. Adam frowned, leaning forward. "That sucks, Theo. But it's just one interview. You'll get the next one." I let out a bitter laugh. "Yeah, sure. Except I'm pretty sure the universe has it out for me right now. Between this and everything with my dad and my mom, it's like I'm drowning, you know?" He didn't try to give me some canned pep talk. He just nodded, his eyes soft. "I get it. Life has a way of piling on when you're already down." I looked over at him. Really looked at him, for the first time since he came in. He wasn't laughing or joking like usual. He looked serious, like he actually cared. And then he did something unexpected. He reached out and took my hand, his fingers warm against mine. "You're not alone in this, okay? You've got people who care about you, who see how hard you're trying." My throat tightened, and before I knew what I was doing, I leaned in. So did he. And suddenly, we were kissing. It wasn't planned or thought out. It just happened. And for a second, everything else melted away. It was just him and me. and it felt good. But then reality came crashing back. I pulled away, my heart racing. "This isn't right," I muttered, shaking my head. Adam blinked, looking hurt. "Theo." "No," I cut him off, standing up and putting some space between us. "You should go. Whatever this is, it's not a good idea." He hesitated like he wanted to say something, but instead he just nodded. "Okay," he said quietly. He got up and walked to the door. Before he left, he glanced back at me. "For what it's worth, I'm here if you ever need to talk. About anything." And then he was gone, leaving me alone with my thoughts and the mess I just made. 2 days later. I hadn't talked to Adam since that day. Things were awkward. Like, really awkward. Every time we were in the same room, the tension was unbearable. I kept catching myself overthinking, replaying that kiss in my head, and trying to figure out what it all meant. But the silence? It didn't stop me from noticing things. Adam had this weird habit of disappearing for hours, sometimes even a whole day. At first, I thought he was just busy, running errands or something. But after a while, it started to feel off. Where was he going? Why was he always gone for so long? It made me think of my dad, how he used to vanish for days and come back with lame excuses, acting like nothing was wrong. The thought made my chest tighten. Was Adam doing the same thing? Was he cheating on my mom? And then there was the kiss. I didn't want to think about it, but it lingered in the back of my mind. If he kissed me, would he really stay loyal to her? The whole thing was a mess, and the more I tried to ignore it, the more it gnawed at me. Something wasn't adding up. Adam didn't have a regular job. Not that I could tell. He wasn't flashy or anything, but still, there was this vibe, like he was hiding something. I couldn't sit on it anymore. I needed answers. It wasn't just about me or the kiss or how I felt. I had to figure out what was really going on with Adam and my mom. No more overthinking, no more second-guessing. It was time to confront him. 2 weeks later. It was another one of those days where I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. I had been keeping tabs on Adam for a while now, following him when I could, watching from a distance. It wasn't healthy, I knew that, but my mind couldn't let go. The job search was going nowhere. I had no social life, and the mess with Adam kept gnawing at me. My stomach twisted every time I saw him around my mom. Something about the way he was acting, how distant he seemed when he was around her, just didn't sit right. And today, it was worse than ever. I was walking down the street when I noticed Adam's car pulling into the parking lot of a local cafe. I was already close, so I decided to follow him. As I walked down the street, I could see him slip inside, and I was about to turn and leave when something stopped me. I don't know why, but I just had this gut feeling that I needed to stay. So I hovered around the corner, out of sight, trying to figure out why he was there. Then, through the glass window, I saw him sitting across from none other than my father. I froze. I didn't know what I was expecting, but it definitely wasn't this. My dad sitting there with Adam, talking like old friends. My heart dropped. I tried to stay hidden, but their conversation drifted toward me, and I could hear my father's voice clear as day. "Good," my father said, his voice cold. "Ruin her, and I'll take care of the rest." I felt like the floor was pulled out from under me. My father and Adam. What the hell was going on? I wanted to throw up. My mind raced as I tried to make sense of what I was hearing. What did my father mean by ruin her? Was he talking about my mom? Adam? Was this all part of some scheme? I couldn't take it anymore. Anger burned through me, hot and raw. I didn't want to see my father right now. If I did, I wasn't sure what I'd do. So I turned on my heel and walked away, pacing the street, trying to calm my racing thoughts. The last thing I wanted was a confrontation with my father. Not right now. I needed to talk to Adam and figure out what the hell was going on. I waited outside, watching the cafe door. It didn't take long for my father to leave, disappearing into the street without even glancing my way. I stayed there for a while longer, collecting my thoughts, trying to steady my breath. Then, once I was sure my father was gone, I made my way to the cafe. I could feel the tension in my chest, my hands trembling as I walked inside. There he was, Adam, sitting at the same table, his head down as if he were lost in thought. I walked up to him, my feet heavy with each step. "Adam," I said, my voice shaking with anger and disbelief. He looked up, and for the first time I saw something in his eyes that wasn't calm or collected. There was a flicker of guilt, of hesitation. "What the hell is going on?" I demanded, trying to keep my voice steady. "What was that about? Why were you talking to my father? What did he mean by ruin her?" Adam's face tightened, and for a moment I thought he might say something, anything to explain it. But instead he just sighed, his hands resting on the table. "It's not what you think, Theo," he said quietly, his voice low and strained. Great! More excuses! I was so done with everything. I felt suffocated, so I turned on my heels and walked outside to get some air. Before I could walk away much further, the anger threatening to burn me up, Adam stepped forward, catching my arm. "Theo, please, just listen." His voice was soft, but there was something urgent in it. I yanked my arm free and started to walk away, my mind whirling with too many questions. But then, in a move I didn't expect, he pulled me back and kissed me. For a brief second, I didn't know what I was doing. My body betrayed me and I kissed him back, just for a split second. But then everything hit me like a truck. The reality of the situation. The fact that this was wrong, that he was my mother's boyfriend. I pushed him away, my chest heaving. "You're my mother's boyfriend!" I shouted, the words burning in my throat. Adam's face twisted, frustration and sadness mixing in his eyes. "There's nothing between us, Theo. Nothing happened between us, not like that. Not ever. Your mother doesn't like me like that. I don't think she's capable of liking anyone like that right now. She's so lonely. She just wants someone to listen. And that's all I've been doing." For a moment, I froze, confused. His words felt real, but I couldn't process them. There was a strange lightness in my shoulder, a burden lifted that I didn't even know was there. But then I asked, my voice shaking with rage again, "You know this and you're still working with my father? Hurting her? How could you?" Adam stepped back and looked me straight in the eyes, a heavy sigh escaping him. "Follow me," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I don't want to," I snapped. But something in the way he spoke made me take a step forward. Reluctantly, I followed him to his car. About an hour later, I was sitting in the passenger seat of Adam's car, the silence between us heavy. I had so many questions and so much anger still boiling inside me. But there was something about the way he looked at me, something that made me stay quiet and wait to see where he was taking me. Eventually, he pulled up to a small hospital, the kind that looked like it hadn't been updated in years. I didn't ask any more questions as we got out of the car and walked inside. We passed through sterile hallways, and Adam led me to a small room at the end. And there, sitting on the bed, was a little girl, probably 6 or 7 years old. When she saw Adam, her face lit up with the brightest smile. "Adam!" she squealed, waving her tiny hand. Adam knelt down beside her, his face softening instantly. "Hey, sweetie," he said, his voice so tender. She reached out and hugged him tightly, and he kissed the top of her head. The girl looked up at me then, curiosity in her eyes. "Who's that?" she asked innocently, pointing at me. Adam smiled and glanced at me. "He's my special friend," he said softly, his gaze meeting mine, full of something I couldn't quite understand. The little girl smiled brightly and grabbed a Hello Kitty sticker from her bag, sticking it onto my palm. "If you're Adam's friend, then you're my friend too," she said happily. I couldn't help but smile at her innocence. Adam kissed the top of her head again, brushing her hair back gently. "I'll come see you soon, okay? You be good until then." She nodded eagerly, her face full of joy, before Adam stood up and we left the room. Outside the hospital, I was still processing everything. "Who was she?" I asked, my voice quieter now. Adam looked at me, his eyes full of pain. "She's my sister, my only family left. She's got cancer, Theo, and I'm doing everything I can to keep her safe. I don't want to lose her, and I can't afford her treatment on my own. Your father, he's angry at your mother for taking away more than half his assets in alimony, and wanted revenge. He wanted me to destroy her emotionally or any other way I could, so he offered me to help, and I had no choice but to accept. I haven't been able to bring myself to hurt her in any way, yet every day I feel like I'm drowning in guilt because I know it's wrong. But I don't have any other choice. I need the money for her treatment. I just have to." I felt a pang of sympathy for him, but I still wasn't sure what to believe. "I don't know what to believe anymore," I said, my voice thick with confusion. Adam's face softened, his eyes filled with raw honesty. "You don't have to believe anything else, Theo. But believe this, my feelings for you have been real from the start. I know you feel it too." I hesitated, my heart racing. "Trust me, please," he added. "I never wanted to hurt anyone, but I couldn't lose her. Everything I do is for her. She is important to me. And now so are you." I was quiet for a moment, feeling the weight of his words. A lot was going on in my head. There was no way to get an answer out of there, but in my heart, I knew it. Finally, I met his gaze. "Of course, you haven't lost me, and you never will." Before I knew it, his lips were on mine, soft and desperate, and I kissed him back, feeling every bit of the tension between us melt away. In that moment, I knew, whatever mess we had around us, our feelings for each other were so much bigger. A few days later, Adam and I were sitting on the front porch, the evening sun dipping low behind the trees. It was one of those quiet moments where everything felt calm, but the weight of what we were about to do hung in the air between us. "I can't believe we're actually going to tell her," I said, half laughing, half terrified. Adam turned to me, his expression soft but steady. "We can't keep this a secret forever, Theo. She deserves the truth. From both of us." I nodded, swallowing hard. He was right, but that didn't make it any less scary. What if she hates us? What if this ruins everything? Adam reached out, taking my hand in his. It was such a simple gesture, but it steadied me. "She'll be upset, sure, but your mom's stronger than you think. She'll see that this isn't just some fling. It's real." I looked at him, and for the first time I felt like we could actually get through this. "Yeah, it is real," I said, my voice quieter now. Adam smiled, leaning closer. His lips met mine in a kiss that felt grounding and electrifying all at once, like the universe was holding us steady. When we pulled back, he whispered, "No matter what happens, Theo, we've got this. You and me, we can handle anything." In that moment, I knew he was right. What we had wasn't perfect, but it was real, and it was ours. Together, we could take on anything life threw at us. Conclusion. We eventually told Mom everything. It was hard seeing her face crumble as we explained it all. About Adam, his sister, and my father. She was hurt, but she understood. She'd been through so much already, and I think in some way she understood why Adam did what he did. She wasn't angry. She just wanted things to be better. As for me, I officially cut my father off. It wasn't like we had much of a relationship left anyway. It was time to let go. Mom decided to help Adam's sister with the money she got from the divorce settlement. She used some of it for her treatment, and the rest she gave to me so I could start something of my own. That's how the idea of the cafe came about. Adam and I opened a small cafe together. It wasn't much, but it was ours, and that meant everything. Oh, and did I mention? Mom absolutely loves Adam's sister too, and the little girl is bringing light into our lives, helping Mom rediscover happiness. As for Adam and me, we were stronger than ever. Being with him felt right in a way I had never experienced before. Every day, we found new ways to support each other, to laugh, to dream. Building the cafe together wasn't just about creating a space. It was about building a future. Our future. I knew we had challenges up ahead, but with Adam by my side, I was excited to face them. Together, we were unstoppable, and I couldn't wait to see what came next. The end. Do you think it's okay to wrong someone due to your own helplessness? Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing to become a part of our Rainbow Force, and stay wholesome.